not going to be hiding or holding anything back. Also, this is another 2-part episode. This is probably just going to be the format of the show. We're talking about maybe making that change because we're pretty happy with the content that we put out. It's just longer than we would like it to be. So I don't know. Maybe this is it. Also, I will be coming back in at the end of the episode to let you know what the next movie is, because again, we did this in one recording and we didn't put it in. So we'll start reformatting to make sure that we get it more organically in the future. But I will see you again at the end of the show to let you know what the next film is, so you still have the full 2 weeks to watch it. As always, thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Welcome, everybody, to another installment of Screenplay Rewind. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And today we are covering a little movie called Southbound that I'm excited to talk about. How you doing, Ron?
I am doing good, and I had a question that I wanted to pose to you.
I'm nervous, but go on.
So, Geoff. So, I am curious. I heard on another podcast I was listening to them talking about renting movie theaters and having a selection of films to choose from. Now, if that, like which ones they would pick, if that selection was limitless, what would you like to see on the big screen if you rented out a movie theater? What would you like? It could be any movie that you would like to see.
The first one that came to my mind is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Of course.
Because it's John Carpenter's The Thing.
What's your backup? What's your B? The Thing projector is broken today. The projector thing is broken today.
Fuck this theater then, bro. What the shit? Your Thing projector's broken?
It's an AMC. What do you want from me?
You have one fucking job, AMC, and it's give me goddamn John Carpenter.
Just rag on AMC for an hour.
I'm just trying to like rack my brain what my follow-up would be. Maybe just like an original unfucked with version of The Empire Strikes Back. I would like to watch that.
That's a good call. Yeah, so I have 2 picks also because my first one was 1979's Alien.
Okay.
And then I was like, of course.
Anyone who has listened to the first installments of this podcast, not shocked by our answers at all.
I was like, of course it was. So what else did I want? And I think a great pick would be the first Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I saw The Lost World in theaters, but when the first Jurassic Park came out, I wasn't allowed to watch it yet.
I saw Jurassic Park 3 in the theater. I don't think I was too young to have watched the first one, and I don't think I was old enough to watch the second one when it came out. When did Lost World come out? It was like 95? It was like mid-90s?
95 or 97. Let me see. Let me go to the old IMDb. And
1997. So I was
1997.
I was 5 or 6 roughly, depending on when it dropped.
Jesus. In 97, I was 12, bro.
Old bastard.
Now, I have actually a distinct memory of watching Lost World. Do you remember the little chicken-sized Calamimus or whatever they're called?
The little bastards in the opening that like eat the people. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember when Peter Stormare gets it via chicken?
Via chicken.
But you remember they all just kind of, jump all over him and bite him to death and then eat him. And
which would be the worst.
Like, it would be the absolute worst. He deserved it.
Eaten. Yeah, he was an asshole, but like, let me be eaten by the fucking thing that can like just immediately end my life and not be, death by 1,000 little fucking chicken fuckers.
Right.
God damn.
Gallimimus. Anyways, he gets it via them, and in that scene, they are all just all over the place from all directions, and I watched it in theaters with my buddy Isaac, and he was basically like screaming and pulled his feet up off the ground during that part, and it was amazing. So I have a distinct memory of watching that. But I think Jurassic Park and Alien will be my two picks if I could pick pretty much anything. That was the first two that came to my mind.
The other one that came to mind is Raiders of the Lost Ark would be fun to watch.
Raiders of the Lost Ark or Last Crusade.
Yeah. If you give me like the theater for an evening and I got to pick two movies,
man,
I might pick Raiders and Last Crusade as a double feature because that'd be fucking awesome, dude.
That'd be so good. But yeah, I was curious what you would say. Empire Strikes Back, not what I was expecting, but very you.
What were you? Well, the first one I said was John Carpenter's The Thing.
That one I expected. That's why I had the backup caveat of, okay, what else?
what were you outside of John Carpenter's The Thing expecting me to say?
I don't really know. Empire Strikes Back was not at the front of the list though. I was trying to predict, but I wasn't really coming up with anything. You watch so much shit, and you watch such a wide variety.
Yeah,
I was having a hard time bringing it in.
That's the thing. It's like it reminds me like the way that I view movies is very similar to a Quentin Tarantino quote where he once said, most people just love the movies they love. And then movie lovers will watch just about anything. And I'm kind of like one of those people where I'll watch any type of movie just because it's a movie. It doesn't have to just be in like my like catalog. Like I watch dramas, I watch fucking Pacific Rim, like any type of movie I'll watch if it seems interesting at all. A lot of movies I watch.
The only rom-com I really watch is Deadpool. I have a hard time with those, but I've been dragged to a lot of really shitty ones, and that's probably my problem.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But so
speaking of rom-coms, Southbound.
Southbound. So I discovered Southbound for the first time about a month ago when I was doing my kind of yearly, just fucking massive horror movie fest because I live, breathe, and sleep Halloween. I don't give a shit about any other holiday the entire year, but I fucking love Halloween because I like horror.
Is the Halloween-a-thon something you typically do? Because as long as I've known you, I don't think I've heard of you doing this.
I do it pretty much ever since I was a teenager. I will every month of October, I will kind of burn through as many horror movies that I've kind of had on my kind of watch list for a long time, but just never get around to watching. I try to knock as many of those like off my list during the month of October as possible. So it's been a thing for a little while now.
Okay.
One of the movies I crossed off my list this October was VHS because I really like horror anthology movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very good one. Most like horror anthology is very hit or miss because it's very easy for something that isn't a cohesive like narrative throughout to kind of like lose its identity if people aren't kind of on the same page. And I felt the VHS felt the opposite of that, how it felt almost like this cohesive thing, even though it's individual stories. Well, the final entry of that anthology really, really grabbed my attention. I really liked it. Just the basic gist of it is, I believe the name of the entry in VHS was like 10/31/98. It was like the day of Halloween, and it was either like 98 or 99 in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
It's about these guys who are on their way to a Halloween party and they go to the wrong address, and they actually stumble upon a haunted house, and they're walking.
Let's be cops. Is this Let's Be Cops?
they're walking through this haunted house, laughing at all of these legitimately terrifying things that are legitimately happening to them, and they think it's part of the gig. They think it's like one of those, haunted house attraction houses you walk up to.
Right.
People have stuff set up, and I just love this idea a lot, and I love the way that they presented it. So after I'd finished VHS and liked it, I looked up the individual directors of it, and another thing. It's three guys. They're kind of like production studio name that they kind of use in place of having a list of three people in the credits for most of their stuff is Radio Silence.
Okay.
And one of the other things that came up under their filmography was Southbound. And I looked up Southbound. I knew hardly anything about it other than it was by these guys primarily, and it was a horror anthology. And I love horror anthologies so much. I pretty much just watch them just to see, because most of the time they're like an hour and 20 minutes. They're very quick to breeze through, and because they're individual stories, their pacing is usually really good because
Yes.
the stories can just kind of like go at whatever pace they want. Most of them are very fast paced because they have a limited amount of time to get their story across. So
Horror is very finicky because either it's overstaying its welcome and the pacing is slow, or it's a one-trick pony that it's just doing on repeat over and over and it's not interesting, or it can be actually good. So, two of those are bad. So, odds are a lot of the times in horror, it's just kind of meh. But anthology works a lot of those problems out.
Exactly. So the names of the three directors that form Radio Silence. It sounds like a fucking band.
I saw them at the BOK once.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
They just stood on stage. They didn't play anything.
Yeah. Matt Bettinelli Olpen, Tyler Gillett, and Chad Villela. I'm sorry. I'm
sure you nailed that.
Yeah. You nailed it.
Nailed it.
So I found Southbound, and it was probably like my favorite movie that I watched for the first time as far as like my horror binge through the month of October. Because we'll get into it just more specifically, but like I swear to God, this movie was like, hey, we're gonna make a movie for Geoff. And this is it. There's so many.
This is it. Here you go.
This is it. Like there's so many aspects of it that are just Geoff crack all the way around. I was just like, God bless him. I fucking love this movie. So I wanted to introduce it to Ron because it's also just like I had never heard of this movie, and that's bizarre for me because usually even shit I haven't seen I'm familiar with because of how just plugged in I am with movies in general. And like you were saying, I kind of like watch all kinds of shit. So
yeah, you even go the route that I don't do of just, oh, this person won an award for this movie for this role, I'm gonna go check out this movie because of that. Usually I just either see something that interests me or get word of mouth recommendations like you did for me with Southbound.
Yeah. Like another thing I do is I haven't done it the past few years, but for a few years I tried to watch the Best Picture nominees every year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Best Picture nominees became kind of worse and worse over time, so I kind of stopped doing that. Like the Oscars, I swear to God, have gotten
oh my God,
fucking like somehow worse over the past 10 years or so when they always were kind of garbage. But yeah, let's talk about Southbound a little bit. So what makes it very special to me as far as horror anthologies go is they have 5 segments in this movie. If you had told me every single one of them was directed by the same people and written by the same people, I would have believed you because this feels very cohesive for an anthology.
Yeah, the cinematography, the editing, and the directing, it all feels like it's just being done by one person.
Which is crazy because they have, 3 directors working on 2 of them because the Radio Silence guys, they do the opening segment and the closing segment. You have with the middle one, it's a different set of directors. So you have all of these, kind of cooks in the kitchen, and most of the time, like you kind of lose like the identity of the movie along the way, or you have like segments that like that just are just completely like unwatchable. Someone just like it didn't get it, but it feels like everyone got what they were setting out to do with this movie.
It's really interesting because it not only are they separate stories, but they also interlock, and that's not something I'm used to experiencing with anthology. Usually I think of like the Twilight Zone movie or something like that,
Creep Show,
or
where they're just completely, they're horror and they're short stories essentially, but they have nothing in common. But there is a through line throughout this movie,
and it feels very much like just a movie. It doesn't feel like 5 stories like you were saying, and the fact that they interlock and it feels like it's just a movie. And we're gonna assume we're gonna get into the structure of this thing later because good lord, this was kind of blowing me away.
Yeah, like you watch this movie and it's this little anthology movie that didn't even get a wide release, but there's so much fucking love and attention to detail given to like all the elements of this that I fucking love. I watched this movie. I really enjoyed it, and it's like the more I read up about it and see these Easter eggs that we're going to talk about later on the podcast, it's like, man, like I just love the attention to detail.
Yeah, and the environmental storytelling and
yes. There's
oh
a
my
bit of
God.
environmental storytelling that like I caught on this viewing tonight when I was watching it for the show that I didn't even see on the Wikipedia page. I'm interested to see if you caught it.
Ooh. We got a Screenplay Rewind exclusive.
It's a Screenplay Rewind exclusive to nobody.
Bobby will enjoy it.
Bobby, you are getting an exclusive, my friend. But yeah, so let's start out just by we'll getting to the first story now. So the first segment is called The Way Out.
Good game.
Yeah.
Enough said. Moving on.
Yeah. Have a good night, y'all. So the first segment's called The Way Out, directed by the Radio Silence guys. The most notable thing that they went on to do is Ready or Not. Two of the guys of the directing team directed Ready or Not, and one of them was an executive producer for it. So the two of them are still kind of a directing duo, and one of them is kind of like their producer buddy.
And that's the movie that I keep wanting to call Hide and Seek that we went to go see, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah. I ended up having issues with Ready or Not because of the script, but they just directed it. They did not write it. So pretty much everything I liked about Ready or Not was because of these guys, and the aspects I didn't like so much about it were the script. So I was kind of happy to see that like my kind of reasonings for disliking it weren't these dudes who I'm talking about and just gushing about for VHS. And
Right.
Way Out.
Right.
But,
yeah. You're wrong, but continue.
yeah. That's fine. That's fine. The Way Out opens up with these two guys driving away from something. It's very mysterious as far as what they're driving away from. They're covered in blood in the middle of nowhere on a highway. And the first thing that told me I was like I was kind of in for a movie made just for me is when they just stare off onto the horizon and you see this fucking creature that could be a Bloodborne boss. Do they not look like fucking Bloodborne monsters you would fight?
They look like something straight out of Bloodborne.
Their design,
and I don't know any other way to describe them.
I love this creature that you just see kind of staring at these two dudes driving down the highway. Like to describe them, they're we always forget to start out the podcast with this. Spoilers, by the way, for Southbound.
Yes.
Please watch the movie. Pause the show, come back after you watched it because we go into full detail on everything we review. So yeah. The way to describe these things, they're just kind of these like wispy, floating, like half skeletons that at some points throughout the movie have like literal fucking Lovecraftian tentacle legs. I'm just like, God damn, this movie's fucking made for me. I love it. They have skeletons that have like a half predator face, like the bottom half of their jaw like unhinges like the predator.
Yeah.
And covering up the skeleton is this kind of like black, just like flab of skin. It's really weird.
It's really strange, and it kind of opens up like the aliens from Independence Day.
Yeah.
Like it's really strange. In like the best possible way. I am sending you some stuff in Discord to just look at so we can talk about this thing, because they are a little Grim Reaper-y looking.
Yeah.
Even down to like this little sickle scythe thing hanging off of their hands.
It's so good. And the way that they move kind of almost like silently, like they have these kind of like screeches they do.
They kind of, the sound
effects
they make kind of reminds me of the Silence.
Yeah, that's a good call too.
A little bit. It's not the same, but it's very, very similar.
And they look like they could be like cousins of Nito from Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah.
And we're going to talk later about what these things actually are or what they could be. But yeah, they are basically, anyone that has seen Torchwood well, remember the guy that jumped out the window and blew himself up? It's kind of like that, floating with Grim Reaper wings and a sickle for a hand.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of everywhere, but they're not doing anything. That's the unnerving thing. They're just watching.
They just watch they interact. We'll get into specific instances about how they interact here pretty soon, but for the most part, they just watch, and they watch from like the horizon.
It's like part skeleton, like from the rib cage down. It's like a spine, part of a pelvis, and then like either the circulatory system or like the nervous system just dangling in the air.
Yeah, and and later on, the kind of like nervous system is replaced with like literal fucking tentacles that you're just like, shit, this is awesome. And like, not only are they good from like just a design perspective, like when they were drawing it up to make the creature, but like the special effects of them is really good too.
Oh yeah,
the special effects of them look fantastic for how low budget the movie overall was.
Well, the advantage of horror, though, a lot of the time is, especially since a lot of this movie seems to be kind of in the same area. There's not a lot of location traveling. They can funnel that money directly into the special effects, and they only need a couple of minutes worth of special effects too. They don't need a whole lot.
Yeah, I was expecting any special effects in this movie, especially for like, you would think they would be able to get away with this good of an effect if it was in the dark, but like they're pretty ballsy about it. Like this happens in like the afternoon. Like they're just
it's broad daylight in the middle of the desert. There's nothing else to look at but this creature.
And they look great.
And the way this movie opened blew my fucking mind because, like you said, they're just driving in a pickup. They're covered in blood. Something really bad has happened. And the guy's just looking over his shoulder, and this thing is just floating there watching them as they're driving. The camera angles are very John Carpenter-esque. The music is John Carpenter-esque.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then further adding on, the fucking cherry on top, it has a Carpenter-esque, like, dun-dun.
Yes.
Dun-dun. And I was just like, fuck, do you guys, like, know what exists and just handmade this fucking movie just for me? Because, like, fucking Twilight Zone-esque, Lovecraftian elements, and it's a horror anthology. There's a Carpenter-esque soundtrack. Like,
and
I love it.
The creatures, like we said, just kind of watch. The first time you see them, I want to say, I don't think it's when he looks over his shoulder. Like the truck drives by the camera and it wasn't there, then it is. And it's not real. It's not a jump scare. The music doesn't do anything or anything. It's just there. It's just weird.
Yeah.
And
the first.
It's unnerving. Like I said before, the whole thing is just unnerving because they're not doing anything. It wasn't there. Now it is, but it's not in your face. It's just watching the truck drive by. The music, you're expecting like the music stinger. The music doesn't acknowledge it. The movie doesn't even acknowledge these things are there. The characters can clearly see them, but they don't seem surprised to see them.
They're not surprised. And they don't. Yeah, like they don't make a note of it yet. They just kind of keep on driving.
Yeah.
So another element that is omnipresent throughout the film is the DJ on the radio on 106.1.
Rusty Nail is now a radio
Rusty
DJ.
Nail, yeah. Rusty Nail from fucking Joyride, now even more of an asshole in hell.
Regret and remorse, amends and atonement. That's life, right?
Fuck, I love this movie. So the DJ that pops on the radio all throughout the movie, because every bit of the movie eventually has characters driving, and they always throw on this station on the radio.
106.1. I know that because that's a station I used to listen to here that I now don't think I will ever listen to again.
No. Nope.
Yeah.
He basically, if you are paying attention, especially on like subsequent watches, he's pretty much like telling you the themes of the movie, but the writing is kind of clever because the way he delivers them, the actor, like it comes across as like some things a fucking DJ would say, you know, on some radio station, you know.
All you lost souls racing down that long road to redemption, and all you sinners running from your past, but heading straight into that pit of darkness up ahead. We're all on the same endless highway, the one with no name and no exits. Well, it's like, what?
So it's these kind of like like these like generalized bits of dialogue that end up being very specific once you understand what.
Sorry, I just thought about demonic Casey Kasem.
So they end up being very specific themes throughout the movie, but like the actor is so great at dishing out the lines that they don't really come across as like over the top or just like they're not blatant in the moment, but they are blatant when you watch it again.
Yes.
So the guys are driving. They come across they drive across this kind of little gas station with a diner attached. They exit out to go into the diner because they need to go clean up the fucking just massive blood spatter. This is all over them. Like clearly they've been in some shit.
Bathrooms for customers only, Jeff.
Bathrooms for customers only. So the two guys, they go in. The two of them kind of go in covered in fucking blood, and the first thing that tells you something is seriously wrong here is how no one else in the diner seems to give a shit or react to the fact that they're just covered in blood.
Right. Like at first you think the cashier is reacting to it, and she kind of is, but she just doesn't really care.
No. She's
Sutter? Was it Sutter?
Yeah, Sutter. And that name is actually another Easter egg to another movie that I might have on the show eventually. Her name being Sutter is actually a reference to one of the characters in the Mouth of Madness, the John Carpenter movie that I want to have on the show eventually that I think you'll like.
That's interested.
That is the Lovecraftian John Carpenter movie with Sam Neill that I've been talking to you about.
You had me sold at Lovecraft, Carpenter, and Sam Neill individually.
Awesome.
I don't know that I can handle them together.
It's pretty fucking awesome. But Sutter Kane is the name of one of the main characters in that film, and that's a callback to because clearly they like Carpenter because of the soundtrack. It's fucking 1000% Carpenter. So
they ripped him off so hard, and he didn't even care.
Nope, he didn't sue them like he did the fucking Guy Pearce movie. What was that? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
How he there was the Guy Pearce movie. It was like the sci-fi movie Guy Pearce did where he was breaking someone out of like a prison. Lockout.
I fucking love that movie. He sued them.
Lockout is so similar in the script to fucking Escape from New York. John Carpenter sued them and won. I shit you not. This is an actual thing that happened.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's kind of nuts.
Oh my god, that's a good movie. No wonder it was a good movie.
They just watching Escape from New York script. Yeah. I actually haven't seen Lockout, but I wanted to when it came out.
Yeah, it's good.
So they are in this diner, and the weird way that the cashier is acting, how she's like more irritated by the fact that they were trying to come in without being customers instead of the fact they're covered in fucking blood.
Right.
And like clearly have just come from the scene of some like awful crime. And one of them goes into the bathroom and is attacked by one of the bloodborne creatures. And the very specific manner in which he's attacked in the bathroom is actually an Easter egg that we'll get into more detail later. The instance that like just like really like hit the nail on the head that like, oh, I'm gonna fucking love this movie is they leave the diner.
I knew it. As soon as I saw this,
yes,
I was like, this is the moment Jeff was in love.
They get in their truck. They exit the frame of the movie to the left, and 4 seconds later re-enter the movie from the right side of the screen. I was like, I love it. And I love the reaction.
Rough
the guy
night.
driving was like, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
And that is just his response for like the night. Like it's just like they're just like, what the fuck is happening? But
there's gotta be a way out.
It's cool in that that guy is freaking the fuck out about it, and the other guy is not. He's just kind of
like, well, of course,
because the guy who's freaking out is not accepting what's happening, and the aspect of this movie and what ties all the stories together is each of these instances is somebody's purgatory, and the final cherry on top, if you make it think about purgatory, Jeff is there because like almost everything I write has some type of like purgatory element to it because it lends itself like so well to horror anthologies because the stories are usually so short that you have no reason to explain anything in further detail. And it just adds so much kind of like gravitas to everything when you just have these guys that have just kind of stumbled their way into fucking purgatory and nothing's fully explained. And I love it.
So since we're already busting out the purgatory card, I want to revisit the
Yes.
movie's title because not only are they literally traveling south on a highway, are they southbound on a highway that our DJ is called The Road to Redemption, which I want to talk about that later in the accident. But these are all people in purgatory that have done
Yes.
really bad things and are literally southbound. And that kind of puts a lot of this into perspective.
So they are leaving the gas station diner, and they kind of have a disagreement to where, like I was saying, how the one guy Mitch is kind of just reserved to the fact that he points out that the creatures that are kind of constantly kind of like closing in on them, he's saying, like they're,
and it's made very apparent that they can take these guys out anytime they want. By the way they move, and they move so fast, you don't even really see them
can pop
move
up out of nowhere.
They've just been lingering on, been lingering on purpose, which is even more unsettling than a thing chasing you, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because now it's just toying
passively, just fucking with them.
Which is why I've always found the Predator more terrifying than the Xenomorph, because
so the character Mitch, that's kind of reserved the fact that they're in this kind of like purgatory state. Essentially, he says, don't you get it? They're here to collect. Like he gets it. Jack is the one that's kind of like, what the fuck's going on? He tries to, he's like, we just got to get out of here. And then Mitch is saying, there's no way to, there's nowhere to go. It's a done deal. So Jack is like, like, fuck you, bro. He gets in the truck, gets ripped out of the truck because the creature has now finally decided to, just kind of like, he's just not gonna get it. So
I was gonna say the guy made a decision, and that's the point at which this happens. The guy makes a hard decision of fuck you, I will not accept this, and that is the instant that he gets ripped out of the truck. And why don't you tell us what happens to him?
He gets ripped out of the truck by one of the bloodborne creatures and has one of its fucking scythe tendrils shoved down his throat. Oh my god, it's fucking brutal, dude.
Which is a very specific reason for that. And I think that tells us we know which creature this is specifically.
The special effect as well on his jaw, as you see his teeth kind of like realigned in his like just eviscerated mouth. Oh my god, dude, it's haunting. It's fucking really well done.
And they give you a close-up shot of it once it's done, and he's just laying on the ground. And that special effect is almost flawless, dude. It looked incredible. In like the worst way, which is the best way. So, and then Mitch decides, that's about right, and sees a hotel with one of the bloodborne creatures just hovering outside of, what was it, room 6255?
Something like that.
He's just kind of invited in by this thing. He's not attacked. Because when the dude got attacked, I was just like, okay, well, these things are scary, but they're a lot less scary to me now if that's what's going to be happening. And then this happened. It like invites him into a hotel room.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, we're back to terrifying and unsettling.
Yep.
Because this should not be happening.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned, or I don't know if you had caught it too in your research of the movie. These two actors for Jack and Mitch are actually two of the directors. They're two of the
are they really? I did not know that.
So the guy who plays Jack is...
This is Simon Pegg and Nick Frost?
The guy who plays Jack, the taller one, he is still part of the director duo of the team, who went on to help with Ready or Not as one of the directors. The guy who plays Mitch is their producer friend.
Okay.
So they're still kind of active and buddies and making movies. And I'm so happy that, while I didn't like Ready or Not that much, I'm so happy it happened and was a success, because now these guys can go on to do more things. Like, I'm super stoked to see what they do now. Like,
you're one of the few people, by the way. I was not all that thrilled about that movie.
I think I might need to just watch it again. You never know. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you just catch a movie at the wrong time.
I think it was more on the goofy side than you were expecting.
Yeah, and I
think you were expecting like the most dangerous game.
I was hoping
something.
it would be more like another movie that I hope to have on the show at some point too, called Your Next, which is more kind of like in that vein.
There's a lot of horror comedies that are just not worth watching because they're just stupid. I think that is one of the best horror comedies in the market.
Yeah, I had like all my issues with it were just like purely personal. Like I acknowledge it's a good movie and people should go check out Ready or Not because it's really good. So he goes into the motel room and it is 6255. I think that's the one you had said. I'm not sure.
I'm looking at it right here. It's 6255. We're pointing out what room because it's important later.
Yes, he goes into the motel room and he starts to see things that would freak him out if he wasn't already just kind of like fully aware of what's happening at first, because you see him walk into the room. The first weird thing that happens is the setting changes for a period of time. Like it switches to nighttime, when it was just in the afternoon, like, minutes before. And, clearly something is off at this fucking motel room. And he starts to hear a little girl's like laughter throughout the motel. He starts, running across the room and through the hallways of the motel. He ends up kind of in a little loop where he's back at the front end of the motel room, even though he just cleared it, running by. The little girl eventually, I think, calls him daddy.
Yes.
And he's continuously chasing after his daughter. He just can't seem to catch up with her. And that's pretty much the way his characters.
Why help me, daddy? Why didn't you help me, daddy?
Yeah.
Why won't you help me, daddy? Daddy, where are you? All these type things as he's chasing her around and never able to catch up with her or find her.
Yeah.
And out of everything we just said, my favorite thing that happens in this story is probably the end. When the maid, the housekeeping, walks by and puts a "Do Not Disturb" placard on the outside of the door and keeps walking. I don't even think she stops walking. I think she just does it as she passes by.
Yeah. I love this movie.
I was like, dude, what?
This movie's fucking whack, bro. And this movie doesn't give up. You also notice I don't think they show the blood at that scene. I think they show the blood as he's walking into the motel room off the side of the wall. But you see, as the maid is placing the "Do Not Disturb" sign, you see bullet holes in the door as well.
Yes,
which we will talk about in a little bit more detail later on. Okay, so the way they transition into the next segment of the movie is
it's so simple but so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. They follow the maid as she's kind of like exiting through the frame to the left, and she goes to the room, like the next room over to the left, and it's populated by three kind of like 20-something women who are members of a band. They have slept in after a night of partying and are kind of packing up their van to kind of get back on the road because they have a gig the next day. They're trying to get to it. So as they're driving, and this story is called The Siren. Let me just catch the name of the directors for this one.
Roxanne Benjamin.
Roxanne Benjamin. Great fucking name.
Written by Roxanne Benjamin and Susan Burke.
So as they're driving along,
I love a director-writer because I always feel like you get their vision.
Yes, and one of the Radio Silence guys is also the writer of segments 1 and 5 as well. I think it was the guy who played Jack. It was the writer for it. So the siren continues with them on the highway. Their van breaks down. They're kind of trying to figure out what to do. One of them tries to call AAA, and they're like, this place is so scuffed. Like I think I heard the lady on the phone at AAA was actually at a bar, which comes into play later. I
don't even think I caught that until now.
Oh, you didn't catch that?
I don't think I even caught that until now.
Yeah, you catch it, dude. You got to watch this movie a second time because you're gonna be like, what the fuck?
What? Oh my god, this movie.
Yeah, I want to know how many times the script, just as a collective, like, how do you do rewrites for a movie that has 5 different scripts, you know? Like,
Well, especially since a movie is typically written on set, more or less, because there's so many rewrites done that, you know, they get limited by budget, they get limited by time, things change.
Yeah.
I don't understand how this movie came out the way that it did.
It would be fascinating to see just how this movie like came together, because it's so fucking cohesive, yet, you know, all these moving parts. It's very impressive. So they're kind of stuck. One of the characters checks the GPS on their phone, and they say, you know, like, I can't even find us on GPS. They can't get they can't get a proper connection with, you know, AAA to come pick up them, or, you know, help them with their broken down van that has I think it's a tire that's blown out. So
Yes.
they're kind of just stuck in the middle of nowhere on the highway when a couple in an old station wagon driving down the highway stop to, you know, talk with them. You're immediately like, what the fuck is going on with these people? Because they look like they're straight out of like a Norman Rockwell painting. And you're just like, what the fuck is happening with these people? Because they look like they're from like the 1940s. They talk like they're an old family from like the 1940s. And you're just like, what the fuck's going on? So
now I want to say real fast, Davy Johnson is the guy in the car. I do not know what I know him from. I'm even going through his IMDb right now. I know he's in Silicon Valley, it says, and Euphoria, but I know him from something, and I don't know what. And I know him because he was a standout in that also. He is amazing in this movie.
Yeah, the performance is pretty much like across the board.
The board, pretty
great. The way that they talk, they sell this unnerving 1950s couple so well. So the 3 girls on the side of the road are, you know, they start to argue about like because this couple has invited them to come back to their house because they have a friend who can help them, you know, like with a spare tire to fix their van and get them back on the road. And the main character of the story, Sadie, is, you know, adamantly like, they're fucking weird, you know, we can't do this, we shouldn't go with them. And the other 2 are just like, well, what the fuck else are we supposed to do? You know, haven't been able to get a hold of AAA. You know, this seems like this is like our only option to, you know.
Your first clue should be about Sadie, because the other 2 girls are typical horror movie protagonists.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no, I don't want to get raped. We're not going.
Yeah. Sadie is constantly like the voice of reason for the audience member.
And that wasn't an off-color joke. That's a quote from her, by the way.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out. That's the thing she says.
So they
Sorry, continue.
She's kind of outvoted 2-1. You know, they get into the station wagon and go back to their house.
Which, I'm sorry, Jeff. If you, me, and Bobby are stranded in the desert and you guys outvote me 2-1, I don't give a shit. I'm still not going.
Agreed. By the way, I'm staying in the fucking van, dude. Fuck that. So they get into the station wagon with a fucking line that they deliver that I love is they ask them how long they've lived there, and the guy driving the station wagon just, since the war.
Yes. And the look on her face when he says that.
Because the girl in the middle, she like mouths to Sadie like, which war? I love that. Because like, that's the thing about these guys too, is like, they're, you know, this movie is for the most part serious, but they have a couple of moments of levity where it's like they get how to break up the audience tension like just enough to keep it scary but not be exhausting. And I feel like Ready or Not did a good job about that too, because, you know, like Ready or Not had moments of, you know, tension as well, and Ready or Not also had moments of, you know, being just, you know, straight up a comedy like we were talking about.
It's horror first with a dash of comedy, and that's the best way to do horror comedy, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're great about balancing like the tone of their movies to me.
Yeah, you can stop and take a fucking breath.
They find a bear trap in the back of the station wagon, which
that's not alarming.
It's, you know, it's fine. That's I'm you know
I've got like 3 or 4 of them in the back of my car right now.
Yeah, me too. You
never know when you're gonna need one. They're so handy.
There's definitely, you know, no instance of you know, Chekhov's bear trap, or this bear trap is definitely gonna come into play about 10 minutes from now. So they are continuing with them as they go to their house. They go into this little, like, you know, almost like suburban home in the middle of the fucking desert, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, Sadie is constantly just like, what the fuck's going on?
So there's also dialogue that keeps happening that is delivered exquisitely by this man and woman. Like, I don't remember how it comes up. It's just like, oh yeah, there's no one around for miles. Just like as a point of conversation.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, don't go in the house.
Yeah, it's like red flag, red flag, red flag, but they deliver their lines so friendly.
They don't stop and look into the camera and go, there's no one around for miles. It's just, oh, don't worry, there's no one around for miles. Oh, don't bother locking up the car. There's no one around for miles.
Yeah.
And he says it so like matter of factly and so like, you know, like it's just literally nothing, but it's everything.
Yeah. Your friendly neighborhood cultist, you know, as you do.
Oh my God.
So they go to their house and they start to have conversations with the two homeowners that ostensibly only Sadie can hear. And this is incredibly important because the woman, like the wife in the house, says, you know, she starts mentioning about, you know, like I forget the exact first quote she has about it, but she starts
something like, so sorry to hear about Alex.
Yes, she references an Alex, and Sadie hears it and is like, what the fuck was that? She immediately calls her out on it. She acts like she didn't say anything, and her two friends ostensibly didn't hear anything either.
And this is your first clue that what you think is going on is not what's going on.
Yeah. They the wife at that point, you know, says she's gonna whip up some supper, you know, and her, you know, it's kind of funny to me, you know, people in like the 40s and 50s had to have had this kind of like friendly sensibility about them, and it's kind of sad how that is now just like an instant creepy factor for us.
Yeah,
now,
that's the thing that's creepy and weird.
It's kind of like I think about it too. It's like, you know how like classic 1930s and 40s music has become instant creep factor in the same way, and it's just like, you know, people back in the day, you genuinely enjoyed those.
They went to clubs
songs
to listen to this.
Yeah, and it's just like that is now relegated to instant horror for us now. It's kind of interesting to think about, but
that's a whole nother podcast, my friend.
Oh yeah. Sadie is continuing to be just like, we shouldn't fucking be here. What the fuck's going on? These people are weird. Her two friends are just kind of like, yeah, you're being over dramatic, you know, like whatever. So they you know, agree to stay for supper. Holy shit.
So supper, that happened.
So they go out into their kitchen area to have dinner with them. They have invited a couple of their friends who are, I guess, just like a neighbor family, even though it's kind of weird because, you know, he said there's nobody for miles. You know, there's just like red flag after red flag. They have their two creepy sons that are like twins.
This is so well done.
Yeah, they don't really like it's weird because the husband and wife of the on both sides of like the table, you know, they have this like 1940s like friendly sensibility about them. Not the two twin sons.
We should also point out that they not only have that 1940s like sensibility about them, they look like they're straight out of the 1940s, and so does the house.
Yeah.
Everything is 1940s.
Yeah, it's very unsettling.
But yes, these twins do not belong. Like you said, two of these things are not like the others.
Exactly. They you know, are bringing out dinner, which is, I don't know exactly. It's a little ambiguous. It essentially looks like burnt roast beef that's been burnt to a crisp.
Okay, so Wikipedia has it listed as burnt roast beef. That is not roast beef.
Yeah,
that is. They say it's roast beef, and Wikipedia has them like as fact on that. Is this Alex? Like, what are they eating?
I don't know.
Because my first impression was that's a person.
My first impression was it's a person as well, but you still don't know.
It doesn't look right. It looks like a human torso.
Yes, it doesn't look right. It looks like they're cannibals, but
yes,
you just don't know exactly because you don't. And like the medicine they drink later, you're just like, oh god, this fucking So Sadie is a vegetarian. She says, "I'm not eating your fucking mystery meat."
So is she? Or is she looking at what's on the table and being like, I'm a vegetarian?
Audible, like, I'm not eating your fucking corpse meal, like whatever the fuck this is. But again, her friends are just like, it's really good. It's fine.
Yeah. So, okay. I was saving this for near the end, but I have a question for you. And this is the first time the question came up in my mind.
Okay.
We've already brought up the purgatory scenario, so yes. I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. Are her friends really there? Or is it just Sadie that's there? And that's why her friends are playing into everything.
It's cool to think about.
Is this part of her like torture here in purgatory? That her friends are just happily going along with everything and dragging her along, and she keeps choosing to go with them.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is essentially just a mind fuck. I don't think anything you see with Sadie is really actually happening at this point. It just seems to be this instance of because her friends go beyond horror movie protagonists. Like
they go beyond horror movie protagonists, and the other thing that's weird is that they're so different from the way Sadie thinks. And usually people that are friends track along the same track, even if they don't think identically. They think along the same means. And they are so polar opposite from Sadie that she is a standout from everyone in the room. The other two almost fit in.
And it's
and they haven't even had really the mystery meet yet. And they're already kind of fitting in.
Yeah.
And Sadie is the standout, and it's like they're in on it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's my read of it too. Is that it's basically just a giant mind fuck for her. And the reason I wanted to point out earlier in the podcast that this is individual renditions of purgatory is so that we could talk about each thing as it happens and how it kind of like relates to that person's purgatory, because the driving force behind every single one of these stories is guilt. And the reason why they keep bringing up Alex is because Alex was their fourth band member and close friend who had died. They don't go into specific detail on why or how she died, but
we get a good idea. I think
it boils down to she and Sadie and Alex were at a party or a club at one point. Sadie left her alone to go have a one-night stand with some guy, and at that point, either while leaving the club, Alex had an accident and was killed in a car accident. It's not specifically stated, but you can make like inferences on what happened. But she's very
a lot of what we're going to be talking about is stuff that we are pulling from what characters are saying. They don't actually show or even specifically reference events.
Yeah, you have to infer a lot of things.
You have to infer a lot of things. And I know this is not a gaming podcast, but this goes back to our love of Dark Souls.
Yes.
And the way the story is told. That is exactly how this movie is kind of told also. You're only seeing current events, and you have to infer the past.
Yeah. And a lot of it is, like you mentioned earlier, environmental storytelling. A lot of it is stuff that you have to be very closely paying attention.
Yeah, there's like shit laying around in the room and stuff. Has Sadie found the switchblade in the room at this point? Okay,
I don't think
Spoilers.
so. I don't know. She might have. It's either in that first scene when they go to the bedroom, or it's in after the dinner party when she's kind of in full panic mode, searching the cupboards. I'm not 100% sure. But
I know she finds it at one point, says "what the fuck" and puts it back.
Yeah,
and then has a good reason to go for it later.
Yeah. So at the very last thing that happens at the dinner party is the two twins say, I thought there were supposed to be four of you, and then their mother, the friend of the couple who brought them home to the house, yells at them, freaks out, and that's kind of like the last thing you see.
Yes.
Further insinuating, like the callbacks to Alex and how Alex is not with them. So they go back to the room. Sadie continues to freak the fuck out, as anyone in their right mind should in this situation, because something is clearly wrong. Like, no one in their right mind would have eaten that food. It looks disgusting. Like,
yes, it literally looks like a body that was recovered from a fire.
Yeah. They go back to the room. They start to continue to argue about it. Her friends continue to blow her off as her being, melodramatic and always like kind of being negative about it. One of her friends goes off into the bathroom while she continues to argue with the other one, and further insinuating that this is just kind of her as Sadie's kind of like personal purgatory. Is her friend just basically like calls her out for like helping to kill her fucking friend with
Out of fucking
out of
nowhere.
nowhere with a smile on her face, and it's just like
Yes.
it's so cruel and hurtful, and you're just like, why would you be friends with these people? And I think you're right. I don't think these are her actual friends. I think this is just a big kind of simulation almost for her.
Another question I have for you is, are these people dead? Or is that just kind of how it ends for them? Or are these just moments and times they're reliving, like that episode of Doctor Who when he was inside the little sundial thing?
Yeah, you don't know. It's never explained. It's completely up to your inference of like, have these people drifted into purgatory? Are these people dead? Is this hell for them? Like you don't know.
I mean, it's clearly a supernatural thing. Either it's purgatory or there's just this one stretch of road that fate has brought them to that just does this.
Yeah. Because and we'll get into it more specifically with the jailbreak story, but there are instances where you have conflicting information as far as whether this is actually happening and whether this is a legitimate thing or not. But in the middle of her argument with her friend, who like cruelly talks about how she like helped her friend get killed, vomits fucking black blood or some type of
like
fluid.
some kind of ichor. I don't know what it is, but it's
don't know what it is.
Now this is after the thing crawls up the window, right? Wasn't there a thing in the background?
That was in the bathroom.
Right.
Her friend in the bathroom has it. Which I still don't 100% know what the thing they show in the bathroom is. Like what exactly is she? Is that in the background?
It's not the bloodborne monster. It's closer to a liquor from Resident Evil than anything.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
I was actually trying to pay attention on my subsequent viewing tonight to try to figure out what that thing was, but they don't ever really reference it again. So I don't know what that is.
I don't even know why it's there. It's almost like someone said, you got to have something spooky here. This is not spooky enough.
Yeah. I do not know what that is supposed to signify.
If I had a criticism of anything, I kept waiting for that to pay off and it never did. Because like I already know something is up, movie. I already know something is horribly wrong.
I agree. I don't fully know what
that's the thing I didn't understand, and I thought I just missed something.
Maybe it was the thing that was more concretely explained, and it was an undeleted scene. I don't know.
Something that was cut.
Because there's so much attention to detail, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Like I feel like it had to have connected back in some way, or they wouldn't have signed off on it being part of the final product.
Because this is one of those things again where everything in this movie is very, very intentional.
Yeah, it's all intricately put together. So her friend she was talking with in the room has the black ichor coming out of her mouth. She goes into the bathroom. Her friend that was in the bathroom also has the same thing. Sadie immediately goes out for help from the family and the rest of the people there at the dinner party.
The last people I want helping me.
Right. Yeah. Because like Sadie is like, we need to call 911. We need a doctor, and they're like, nah, it's fine. We'll use this
family recipe.
Family recipe medicine. They'll be good as
finger licking good. It's got 11 herbs and spices.
They bring them out. This like disgusting looking like chunk. It looks like spoiled milk almost.
I've never seen laudanum, but based on that name, that's what I expect laudanum to look like.
Right? Yeah.
But it looks like it would be salty to me, and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And they bring it in and they like just give it to the two girls who had the black ichor throw up like all over them, and they're just like, let's I'm feeling a lot better. And they just they go into instant like they're in a trance.
And they even make out, I don't know the exact quote, but there's even a line from the wife that's just like, oh yeah, the first time is rough or something.
Oh yeah. That's the friends who have been invited by the main couple, the wife. She says, that first time, it's always the worst, right? And they'll have a laugh about it. Like her friends are fucking vomiting goddamn black ichor in the other room, and they're just like, laughing about it.
Yeah. So strange.
So they give them the fucking disgusting spoiled milk laudanum and then leave the room. Sadie's like, we need to leave fucking now. Like we need to go. It doesn't matter what what our situation is with the van. We need to just leave. And her friends, Oh, also let's point out they had the two girls change clothes into matching clothing in these like creepy old like style dresses.
And from this point on, they act like the twins do. We're doing everything in sync and stuff.
Yep. They act like they're just complete drones of like a human being. Like they have like no autonomous thought. They're just there, you know. They're the two friends as Sadie is trying to get them to leave. You know, they're like, "No, I'm too tired to go anywhere. You know, let's just go to bed."
Right.
And like you were saying, like they climb into the same bed together. They lay down next to each other. The girl on the right is just like casually stroking the other one's hair, and you're just like, "God damn, this is not okay." All kinds of nope.
Oh god.
Yeah, and at this point, Sadie is in full freak out mode. She can't get her friends to leave. So this is when she goes to get the switchblade.
Doesn't she look out the window first and see like someone watching them from a distance?
I think she might look out the window and see the twins. And then she just kind of like closes
that's when she like closes all the windows and goes and gets the switchblade, I think.
Yeah. She closes the windows, gets the
which
switchblade.
Is good call,
Yeah.
Sadie.
Yeah. Sadie's doing everything in her power, man. Like she's trying, like, and then like she could just leave, but then you know she's trying to help her friends, so she stays.
Well, going back to guilt, right?
Yes.
That's what she's being accused of, is not helping a friend. She could just leave and say "fuck this," you know, and get the fuck out, but she's trying to help her friends.
Mm-hmm. So she sits at like the in between the beds with the switchblade and falls asleep. So when she wakes up, her friends are gone. I think she hears kind of like some chanting going on outside and is just like, what the fuck's going on? She looks out the window and sees the people that were at the dinner party and her friends. They are in these like weird kind of like cultish cloaks and they're chanting. They're walking out into the middle of the desert.
Yeah, and she's just like, shit.
Yep. She runs out of the house to go see what the fuck's happening. And they are in full Lovecraftian cult mode. They are chanting. They are using a knife to cut the palm of their hand to use their blood for like a concoction, which is never a good sign. Anytime
a good sign.
Anytime in a movie where people are, you know, ceremonially cutting their fucking palms, not a good sign.
Which out of all the places to cut yourself,
I know, dude. Like, cut your.
I have had giant fucking palm-sized wounds on my hands before, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah, it's like if you're gonna cut yourself, like maybe not cut where you know the millions of nerve endings are near. You know, like I'm just saying. But
oh god, and everything you do just reopens the wound, and
you can't because if you just cut if you just cut like your upper forearm, you're fine. You know, you just put just bandage it up. You don't really use it that much. You know, it's fine.
Right.
But no, everyone cuts and just immediately without thinking cuts the middle of their fucking palm like side to side. It's like Jesus. Guys.
And it's always disturbing to me, even more so when people don't react to cutting their palm.
Yeah, agreed.
This is so routine that they don't even notice it, or they're so used to the pain that they don't even flinch anymore. Because it's one thing, it's creepy enough when they're doing that, but when they're just like as they're doing it, they at least seem human. But when they just reach up and slice open their palm like it's no big deal, something they do every day, and squeeze it into a cup.
and that's pretty much how the cultists are here. They don't seem to react to the wound at all. So they're using their concoction that they made with their blood and whatever the fuck else they're using. Like God knows what's they could be using the fucking laudanum as a part of this for all we know.
Right.
They have the two
part of the
there.
medicine.
They have Sadie's friends there. They have them kneel down and they kind of inscribe these like sigils with the concoction on their forehead.
Yeah, it's not. They're not just getting symbad, right? They are actually drawing a specific like rune or a specific sign on their forehead with whatever is in that cup. And then it just dissolves into their skin. Yeah,
it dissolves to their forehead. And at that point, Sadie's just like,
nope.
It's a lost cause. The guy who I think was the guest husband is actually doing the inscribing on their foreheads. He has a quote where he's talking about how like the damned don't die, which further ascribes the point to where like these people seem like they're from a different generation. They literally are. These people are immortal because of these ceremonies they've gone through. They're immortal. God knows how long they've been there.
Since the war.
Since the war, exactly.
No, they've only lived there since the war.
So they the two friends, after the thing absorbs into her forehead, Sadie kind of like takes a step back and hits Chekhov's bear trap.
Foreshadowed.
Yeah. Wait, and
Yeah.
it's like brutal too, because like they show like where the bear trap is like clamped, and it's like on like the fleshy part towards like the front near her toes, and you're just like, oh god, do not want.
I like that she is screaming with her mouth covered. Like
Yeah.
she's trying to be quiet, but still kind of having a human reaction.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because they heard the trap clap. Like they heard the clank of the trap.
Yeah,
and everybody like looks her direction.
They heard the trap. They all turn immediately to her direction, and they all have these kind of like glassy, weird looking eyes. And you're just like, well, this is great. This is gonna be fine.
They look like hollows in Bleach in like a human form. In the anime Bleach, they have the black eyes. Like the whites of their eyes are now black, and then the color part of their eyes, their irises, are instead of gold like in Bleach, like the silver pale color.
Yeah, they look almost like reflective. It's interesting look,
like a dog's eyes in the night or something.
Yeah,
or a cat's eyes.
So once they've noticed her friends start to kind of like chase after her to go after to bring her back, presumably because they want to kind of indoctrinate her into the rest of the cult, as you do. And Sadie is kind of like she's got one foot still in the bear trap she's trying to break out of. She kicks one of her friends in the face. She slashes at the other one and is able to open up the bear trap and start to run away. As she's running away, she kind of stops for a second to hide inside kind of like a shed or barn. And here is where she has a kind of run-in with this kind of ghostly apparition that, is her friend Alex that had previously died.
Yeah.
And she runs away from the apparition of her, her dead friend towards the highway.
Yep.
And oh boy.
My god, dude.
She is so okay. So Sadie has managed to escape the cult. She sees a car on the horizon coming towards her on the highway. She steps out into the middle of the road to try and flag down this car, and this is the beginning of the next story called The Accident. Holy shit balls, man. The sound effects when he hits her with the car and the sound effects she's making as she's flipping down the road.
I made the mistake of wearing headphones to watch this. I don't recommend that if you're squeamish.
I kind of want to go back and watch it with headphones now.
Don't use the shifts. Grab some shitty ones.
Oh no. Oh, that's awful. Yeah, because like, dude, just from fucking TV stereo, it was haunting. I can only imagine in like fucking studio headphones.
Oh my god, it was bad, dude. And we're gonna talk about a sound effect later in this one.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, she flips over the car, and the guy has a very like human reaction. He's just like sitting there like, didn't happen. Looks in the mirror, sees body. Oh shit, it happened.
One of the best performances of the movie, I think, is the driver in The Accident. I think his reactions to everything as he kind of like straddles the line of like that like fine line between pure panic and when you're trying to tell yourself this isn't happening, but you have to force yourself to come to grips with the fact that this horrible thing is actually happening to you. He's fantastic.
Oddly enough, out of everything, this is probably my favorite one, and a lot of it has to do with the acting in this.
Yeah, this is
and a lot of the sound design and stuff, because we're going to talk about some shit, man.
This is probably my favorite segment out of the movie too. So just real quickly, this as we had mentioned, this segment is called The Accident. This was written and directed by David Bruckner. He is one of their buddies that they worked on with VHS. David Bruckner actually made the most famous story out of the first VHS. And he also went on to direct another movie, and I really like The Ritual. Do you remember The Ritual on Netflix?
Yes, I love that movie so much.
I like it a lot too. He was the director of that movie, so it's cool to see. Like,
it's an old lady punching in the face good time.
Oh yes, one of the cinematic achievements of our generation is that punch. So it's kind of cool.
I do also want to shout out Lucas is Mather Zickel. I want to say is how you say that. He's the guy in the car.
Oh, okay.
That hit her, because good God, this guy needs to show up in some more stuff.
I know. Yeah. I think Sadie is great too.
I'm looking at his IMDb right now, and he's from a lot of different TV series, like a few episodes here and there and stuff. Yeah. He needs to be in a lot more stuff.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
We're going to talk about some decisions this character makes later too, by the way.
So, and it's also just like this was probably my favorite way they kind of like merge from story to story as well, because I think it's so awesome that the protagonist of the second story becomes like a supporting character.
It doesn't get more fluid. It doesn't get more fluid than that.
Yeah, I think it's like such a cool little decision to make a supporting character out of one of your protagonists, because it actually makes you, because if he just ran over some random person, yeah, it's awful, but it's not a person you know their name. This is
you care because this is something that shouldn't happen to anyone. In this case, you care because Sadie just went through some shit.
Yeah.
And was home free almost.
Yeah.
It's this just literally came out of nowhere.
It's heartbreaking that she went through all this shit. Is making the right decision, for the most part. Like, she put up a fight. She realized there was a problem. She's the voice of the audience in that segment, and to see her just get run over by this car, it's heartbreaking.
Well, two things about that though. In theory, this is a purgatory where you have the opportunity to correct a mistake, but the inference is right that these people are making the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's like, if she's in this situation, did she make the right decisions?
I
get the feeling that this is what happened to Alex. I get the feeling that this right here is what happened to Alex, and this is why she ends up this way.
Okay, so this was what happened to Alex, and she is now, as part of her punishment, living what her friend ended up going through, essentially.
Basically.
Okay.
That was my takeaway. Again, this is one of those things that 5 people can watch it and come to 5 different conclusions, and they're all valid.
Yeah, because I didn't personally get that connection, but I really like that connection, because they don't specifically, I don't think they ever come out and say that
we know that there's some kind of car crash.
Yeah, because
that kills Alex.
Because in the second story, she has like a dream of Alex in the middle of the road. So they do have context clues to this. So it very well could be that. I like that connection, if it was what they were going for. That's just the thing. That's just the thing you don't know for sure, because it's just inferred.
And then to kind of tie it further together, Lucas here, I get the feeling, like, if you just read Wikipedia, it's like, oh, he sees her lying on the ground, he calls 911. Did he just call 911, or did he really stop and think about abandoning her since no one is around, no one saw, she's not gonna make it, it's clear by looking at her if he leaves her. It's very obvious to me that he almost drove off.
Yes. And we needed to mention that the reason the crash happened is because he was on his cell phone while he was driving. He was looking at picture messages back and forth from his wife, not paying attention to the road when he ran over Sadie.
Yes.
So he has this, he looks very, very close to, because he lies to his wife. He tells his wife everything's fine. It looks like you're talking about how he's so close to just driving away.
This scene looks like it's wrapping up Siren and not starting the accident. It doesn't look like you're starting anything new yet, because he at this point has not decided to help her. It looks like this is just how we're signing Sadie off.
Yep.
And then he makes a fateful decision to do the right thing, or at least attempt to.
At this point, yeah. So he calls 911. 911, which, by the way, it's always the same voice anytime anyone calls anyone on the phone, which is
yes, cool. The radio DJ is always the same. 911 is always the same.
Always the same. So he calls 911. 911 is trying to get EMS out. They can't help him though, because he doesn't know where he's at. He checks his GPS, can't find himself on GPS. And
did we point out that every time it shows the highway sign, there's no number?
It's
the state
south.
highways. Yeah, it just says south, and it's the state highway sign, but there's no numbers in it.
Yeah, it's just a nameless, and there's no identity to the highway. It's just a fucking highway, and it's just going south. That's all you ever see. Fuck, I love this movie, bro.
It's like none of the characters gave any thought to where they are until they needed to know.
Yep, and it's too late at that point.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy.
So, by the way, when he walks up to her, nothing freaks. Like, I could watch an insane amount of gore just from all the horror movies I've seen, but nothing freaks me out than seeing shit with knees.
Oh, I know.
Her fucking knee is bent forward at a 90-degree angle, and it's like, oh no, I can't, dude. Because like, I can watch any amount of horror movies and for the most part just be completely unfazed. But you show me like, you know, like some people watch YouTube videos, people like having like bicycle crashes and like breaking their arms and shit. I can't do that.
I cannot
do it.
Cannot handle that.
I watch a lot of football. Always freaks me out when someone gets injured and they replay the fucking injury like 12 times. I'm like, can we stop? Can we please stop?
Oh no.
So yeah, her knee has been a 90-degree angle in a compound fracture. She's convulsing. Like, it's a miracle she's alive at all. So he calls 911, and
which also lends credence to what we're talking about, this being a purgatory, because she should not be, and
dead.
she lasts a lot longer than she should.
Yeah, she should have been dead on impact, to be honest.
Yes.
Because you can die on impact from a car crash at a lot slower than how he was going. He was going like 80 on the highway. Like, she should have been dead instantly.
Oh yes.
So he calls 911. 911 is like, hey, we don't know how to get anyone to you, so why don't you just, like, you know, pick her up? That's gonna be, because like,
yeah, that's and like his reaction to this,
because you shouldn't do it. That's like the number one thing you don't do is you don't move the person, you know, like,
right.
That's the number one thing. Even in this instance, I think EMS would have been like, we're gonna find a way to find you. Do not move her. You know, that's because, you know, like, there's spinal implications and, you know, all these different medical implications of moving the body if you're not a professional. That, you know, like I was saying, like, fuck, even for football, you know, they don't move people like when they've been injured in that way. You know, they bring out a stretcher and they.
I just imagine you sitting at home as he's going to scoop her up. And you're like, come on, man, they don't even do that in football.
They don't do that fucking football, bro. Like, come on. Which should, you know, warning flags about the people on the phone come into play later. So they're just like, yeah, we want you to scoop her up, throw her in the back of the seat, it'll be fine. I want you to drive her to town. You're like, that's all we can do, you know. But the performances on the phone, the way that they talk and the jargon they use, you feel like you're actually, to an extent, talking with EMS, even though the instructions they're giving to him sometimes feel a little suspicious or outright wrong, you know. They deliver it well.
And again, Lucas's reaction is, what? I didn't sign up for this shit.
Yeah.
And he's really contemplating just leaving at this point.
Yep.
Again. And at that point, yeah, I kind of am too. Like,
yeah.
Dude, what?
Because he's a little suspicious about, like, I don't know about that. So he picks her up. He throws her in the back of the car. And to me, the moment this, like you were talking about how, like, we were still in the cleanup from ending the story of the siren instead of, you know, the accident, when he's driving away with her in the back seat and the EMS people on the phone have him talk to her, that to me feels like when it switches to where this is becoming about his guilt and no longer about Sadie's.
Yes.
Because he turns to her in the back seat, you know, he says, you know, like, very sincerely, like, I'm doing all I can do, I'm gonna do all I can, and he drives her into town.
So about that, and with the way this one ends, I get the feeling that a situation similar to this is why this guy is here. And that he did just leave even without saying anything. You know, and that's why he's here. And now he's reliving it a second time.
Yeah. And having different decisions made at different points of the event in the purgatory simulation.
Yes.
So he's driving through the town.
Purgatory simulation.
Huh?
Purgatory simulation. That's that was my favorite band a few years ago.
Yeah, they opened for Radio Silence. Yeah, they're pretty good.
They opened for Radio Silence.
So he still has EMS on the phone as he's driving through the town. He's trying to find out where the hospital is. All he sees are, you know, just like he mentions, he sees like a barbershop. He finally finds a hospital. Drives up to the front of the hospital, you know, grabs her out of the back of the car and is running into the hospital to try to get her to EMS and, you know, people who can actually help her in the hospital, and no one's home.
There's nothing more scary to me than a hospital, Jeff, when it's staffed. I do not like hospitals.
Yeah, I hate them too.
I absolutely hate them.
They're like, I'm not the type of person that like outright believes in ghosts, but I never get more close to the point of believing in ghosts than I when I'm at a hospital. It just feels haunted to me, even if I don't fully believe. If that makes sense, like they
I think
always
part of it is because you know people. You're in
have
an
died,
area, possibly even in a room
where people have
where
died.
someone has died. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But then it's just so sterile, and everything is so white, and it's like unnaturally sterile. It's got that chemical smell about the air.
Yes, yeah.
Like it's almost everything is so bright. It's almost dizzying with how white the walls are and the ceiling and the floor, and it's just I do not like them when they are staffed. I'm gonna shit myself if you put me in one that is empty.
Yeah.
Just no one around. It's got power. There's TV on, but there's just no one around. And there are fucking operating rooms ready to go.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There are malfunctioning like lights everywhere, but in the operating rooms, it's lit up like a
Yes.
fucking Christmas tree, and it's just like the way that the purgatory scenes just kind of like usher characters along is really cool and creepy because they just kind of like are ushering them along into their operating room. And oh my god, Rod, when he's holding her and her fucking leg breaks again.
Don't wear headphones.
Oh my god, dude, I can't. Because he oh my
she
god.
reacts first, and then that's when he sees it happening.
Oh.
That her leg is just like coming OFF off.
Yes, it's hanging by literally a fucking thread, dude. Like,
oh my god,
I can't.
And the sound design as it's like tearing away from her, and that is like what he's been carrying her by. So he's like starting to lose his grip on her because what he's holding is no longer attached.
Yeah, he's holding her like one of his points where he's holding her is her fucking 90-degree angle bent knee going up. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So her performance in this segment, as well as she's reacting to all of the things, is great. She really.
Oh my god.
He takes her into the operating room, and this is when you really start to see that EMS is fucking with them. The voices over the phone, because they give him just enough jargon and just enough legitimate medical things that he's that as a person who isn't in that field would be aware of, like the intubating and stuff like that. Like,
like when he's digging through everything, trying to find the thing, and she's just yelling all the different terms at him that it could have written on it.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that is what kind of like is selling it. But at the same time, you're like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
Like, no one would ask this of anyone.
Yes. The voice in the back of your head.
No one would want you attempting any of this.
Yeah. And Lucas is reacting the same way the viewer is. He's like, something isn't
happening.
Something isn't right here, but he's going to try because he's
being driven by guilt of, again, I believe the same thing that he did abandon.
He just left them. Yeah. In reality. Yeah.
Because he even told her, I'm going to do everything that I can. And this is him trying to deliver on that, even though it doesn't seem right. Doesn't he even tell them to like fuck off at one point? And then he goes and does the thing. Like, yeah,
he has a few moments like that where he's very combative with them over the phone, where he outright kind of tells them to fuck off. And then, and then he's like, fuck, what was I supposed to do again? And he kind of does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are several points where it looks like he's getting ready to just run.
Which at this point in the fucking abandoned hospital with, like you almost
I wouldn't have gone in.
Yeah. Ron would have walked in, seen the abandoned hospital, just sat the girl down gently and just backed out of the room.
Would have rang the bell on the desk and then would have Homer Simpsoned out of there.
Oh yeah. And the hospital also, real quickly, looks to have been abandoned like in an instant because there's like food that was left out that is now rotted.
Yeah.
Where
it's like the fucking rapture happened and everyone there was a saint. Like,
exactly. Yeah. So he is giving people over the phone instructions about like like what he's seeing, what her state is. They asked to like hear what her breathing sounds like. and they continue to have him intubate her. He can't find the actual all he can find is the tube. So they literally have him put his fucking fingers down her throat to intubate. You're just like, oh my god, what is happening?
Now this is the point when he's yelling about how he can't do this. This is crazy. Blah blah blah. That a new voice comes onto the phone.
Yeah, because it's a guy's voice this time who says he's a surgeon,
and it's a sharp, gets your attention voice. It's a very authoritative voice. And he refers to himself as the surgeon. I wanted to point out this actor also. His name is Justin Wellborn, and you may know him from the MacGyver TV series.
Oh, my favorite.
Oh yes, Justified.
Oh, I actually might have seen him in that. I did like Justified.
Yeah, he was Carl. It says, VHS Viral.
I didn't see that. I saw VHS 1 and 2, but I have not seen Viral, so I did not see him in that.
Yeah, and The Crazies.
Oh.
And Final Destination.
We should cover Crazies at some point. I like Crazies.
Yes, we should. I think that's on Prime, actually.
I think I actually own that movie too. I really like it.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, this guy, holy shit, him and Lucas. Like, I just want a buddy cop movie of the two of them, dude.
In Purgatory?
in Purgatory. One is Harvey Bullock and one is like the straight-laced guy. It's like the Odd Couple, but they're detectives and in Purgatory.
Yeah. Purgatory 911.
Give it to me now. I want it. But yeah, this voice comes on, and not only is it more authoritative, and it grabs your attention immediately, not just because the change of voice, just because, we've been dealing with two female voices that were, one of them is kind of a higher pitch, one of them is kind of like a mid-tone. It's not just that this one is deeper. This one is literally speaking with authority, and you, the viewer, are like, oh my god, it's Satan himself. Oh my god,
he's got a fantastic voice.
He's got a fantastic voice, and he's talking like someone that would be in that position, and he's matter-of-factly telling him what to do as if he's done this 100 times.
Yeah, and he's speaking in that kind of tone you have to make people who are freaked out do what you say. Like you have to cut through like their sense of panic to make them listen in his voice.
And he's going slow and steady. He's being very descriptive. It's like he's teaching someone.
Yeah.
He's not just saying ram the thing down her throat. Like, he's giving him very specific directions.
Yeah.
And then a scalpel.
Oh my god. Okay. So while he has one hand jammed down her throat with the fucking intubating tube,
she bites down, by the way.
Yeah. And
he is now the leather strap to like her pain that she's feeling. Like, anything she feels, she's gonna bite harder.
And while he has his hand jammed down her fucking throat, while she's biting it just out of pure convulsion from pain and blood loss and everything, like, reaches over because they have convinced him he has to compress her lung to save her. And he makes the 5 to 7 inch incision just like he's told. He reaches his hand up through the flap of her skin above her fucking rib cage, bro. And this effect's fucking great too, because like it looks like he's doing it. Like there's no like separation really where it looks clearly like he's on a like putting his hand in a prosthetic special effect. Like, it looks legit. Like it's also really well done here too. The practical effects and the CGI and the creatures, chef's kiss, fucking great. And he reaches up and like, oh my god, like they cut over to Sadie's face, and as he's about to like compress her lung, you just see the single tear roll down her face, and it's like, it's so heartbreaking, dude, because it's just like she went through so much shit to like go out in that scenario. Is fucking brutal, like.
Yeah.
And he compresses her lung and she dies, and you're just like, fuck, dude.
After all that,
to go out like that. And then when the voices over the phone start maniacally laughing like fucking Dark Souls NPCs, you're just like...
And it takes him a minute to notice. Did you notice that?
Yeah, because he's just like, he's in pure shock at this point. He's just...
Yeah.
Just pure shock.
I love the touch that he doesn't just react immediately. It takes him a moment.
Oh, also too, he has if you watch the scene again, he has a brief glimmer where he like, you know how like, when people are laughing, you instinctively laugh along with them for a
Yes, he
brief
does it
second.
for an instant.
Yeah,
And then he realizes what's happening. It's like, wait, what?
yeah, he has this brief instance of where he has like a quick little like flash of a smile, like as if he's about to start laughing with him, and he's like, "Wait, what?" And
Yeah.
the laughs just like keep coming and coming, and you know you kind of see how they've been fucking with them. And like I like the scene too where he drops the earbud that he was using to talk to them on like the earbud headset, and it just lands in the blood, and you hear like the kind of like distant laughing as if you were listening to the earbud on the ground. That's a cool little
Yes.
touch too in the sound design that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And
the thing I was gonna talk about too later is that thing is covered in this woman's blood, and he sticks it back in his ear.
yeah,
Dude.
that's pretty grody, right?
Who the fuck does that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So he walks across the hospital, tries to leave because he's just like between like the laughing and yeah, he you know he just literally killed this girl, this poor girl who he already ran over with his fucking car. He now, after trying to quote unquote save her, you know, doing all he can, you know, with these instructions he was given, you know, kills her himself. He can't escape the hospital. The hospital, there's this great scene where they zoom in on the exit sign, and they pan
Yes.
down, and the door is just like these like massive chains just bolted closed, which
Mm-hmm.
fucking love it.
Inferring that somebody did that right after he went in.
Yeah.
So even if
Well,
he had chosen "fuck this, I'm out," he's stuck in there with her,
mm-hmm.
just to watch her die.
So he can't get out of the hospital. He's freaking out. They have another like David Bruckner, the director. Some of my favorite shots are all in the accident. Like there's this great shot too, right after you see how the exit door is shut. He shows the shot outside the hospital of his face in the window of the exit door screaming,
Yes.
and you hear the audio as if you're hearing on the opposite side of the door. And it's just like, oh man, so many great little touches of cinematography that it's like fucking Jeff Crack.
Yeah, it's really, really, really good.
So he is kind of meandering around the hospital, and he kind of just like eventually just slumps down in a corner of a room, and just like thinking about everything and like, what the fuck do you do? So he just sits down, and this is kind of the culmination point of the story. Is the people he eventually starts talking to the people over the phone again, and you know they tell him, this doesn't have to be, this way.
Yeah.
You can just walk away. And
Well,
he's like,
the first thing that happens is, he's like, I don't deserve this. Like, she was
yeah,
in the middle of nowhere in the dead of night, da 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 da, and he's going on, and he's just like, I do not deserve this. And then that great male voice again was just like, no, you don't deserve this.
mm-hmm.
And it's just like, what?
Yeah. They're just like kind of talking to him, kind of calming him down. It's like, no, this is gonna be fine. You go to the locker room. So he finds the locker room. He finds an exact match of his clothing, completely untouched.
Mm-hmm. No blood, no nothing.
No blood, no nothing. Like an exact match of his clothing he was wearing. He has this look on his face where he's like, what the fuck is this? But he puts it on. He cleans off all the blood, cleans himself up, where he looks just like he did, in the moments before the crash. He is now able at this point to exit the hospital. He exits the hospital.
I love this detail.
I love this detail too. He pulls out his car keys with his remote entry, unlocks his car, staring forward at his, like fucked up car from, following the crash. What beeps is an exact replica down to the license plate of his car behind him. It's like,
I kind of wish just to do it, just to kind of seal the deal. Like the license plate was cool, but if he had just looked at the bottom corner on the driver's side of your windshield where your VIN number is, if the VIN number had matched,
oh yeah,
I would have been like, oh, this is exquisite, right?
Yeah.
Like if the VIN number had been the same.
And and he gets in the car. Also inside the car are his belongings, like
In exactly the way they were sitting before the crash.
He has like a crossword puzzle, and I think like a newspaper or something, like laid out in the seat. It's an exact, he's wearing the exact same clothing, like it, and in the exact same car in the same shape it was pre the accident. like down to a T. So he drives off. He's not accepting guilt for happened. You know, like these voices on the phone are urging him on as far as like, you know, you didn't deserve this. You know, it's gonna be fine.
And hold on, I want to look real quick. This was the accident, right?
Yes.
And the DJ on the radio comes on here and says, "Now, where were we? It seems I lost my train of thought. Well, folks, the mind is a tricky demon, I'd say. All you can do is turn the music up, hit the gas, and keep moving forward. Try not to linger on the things you left behind, because you cannot undo what's been done. Ain't nobody gonna buy your bullshit. C'est la vie, as they say."
And as he's driving away, you see in the last frame as he exits the scene, one of the creatures is staring off at him at the car, and you switch over to who has been making part of the phone calls to him. It's a woman in a phone booth, and she just says, you know, like, "Good night, Lucas," and that's the ending of the accident segment.
And this is another flawless transition, but I want to linger on Lucas for a moment, because this story is the standout. This story is the one where it seems like the dude made the correct decisions to get out of his loop and move forward. Because I don't know if these people are dead or like trapped in a physical thing. This area seems ethereal. I don't know if they're in a different plane of existence or what, but he seems to have gotten out of it. And it seems to be the only story that ends that way. And this is kind of inferring that, you know, Sadie didn't have to end up where she did. There should be something somewhere that she could have done to prevented that. The way out, which is also going to tie in with the way in later, obviously that could have gone differently. So they never got there in the first place. But it also infers that they got into this situation, but there seems to be a way that they can get out of it if they make the right choices.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if this guy's alive, if he's going to get to resume his life, if he's going on to the next plane of existence, but he doesn't seem like someone who's just gone through something traumatic either when he's leaving. You know what I mean? Like, when he's leaving, he's driving, he's looking at things in his rearview mirror, and he drives out of the town, and we see what happens to people that try to leave the town that shouldn't in the next one, thus the name Jailbreak. But he seems like someone that I don't want to say is like peaceful or something, but it's like come to terms with something, even if that thing was awful.
Yeah, it almost feels like this purgatory existence comes down to like you, and we'll get into more detail later with the final segment.
It's like a redo.
Yeah, there are definitely evidence that there are loops, that they're going through these purgatory situations repeatedly. It's not a one and done type of thing. And I think you're right. I think in this instance, because he has done all he can to save her in that instance, you know, like despite all the horrible shit they put him through, like he genuinely tries to save her. He does the right thing to the best of his abilities with you know, like,
and you can't argue that he did otherwise.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
he did everything he could.
Gave her an incision and reached up inside her. I mean, what more could you expect from him? The guy is literally doing everything in his power. And when I was watching this, I was just kind of like, hold on when he got out, because I kept waiting for it. I kept waiting for the thing that was going to happen, right? Because everything has ended poorly for everyone so far. And while on the surface, this seems like it ended poorly, at the same time, it doesn't, because a bad thing happened, but in the context of just this little micro story, right, it ends kind of well for him in a way, because he does get out, he does escape it. So it's like, it's almost like it's saying, yeah, the other person that you hit in your other life or whatever would have died anyway, but that's not the point, right? The point was you abandoned them. Here's your chance to make it right. And she still dies anyway, because like Sadie made the wrong choices in hers. sense for her to end up here in this guy's story. So she think bad things were going to happen to Sadie anyway. That's out of this guy's control, just like it might have been out of the guy's control in his real life. But this time around, he did try to save her, and therefore he is released. And you keep waiting for it, and then he just drives off, and then he drives past the lady in the phone booth, like you said, and she just says, like, what was it? Good night, Lucas.
Good night, Lucas. I think is her last line to him.
And then hangs up and walks off with kind of a smile on her face and like a pip in her step. And you're just like, hold the fuck on.
Yeah. But again, it is ambiguous because of
he could just be living this over and over.
He or even if he has passed the test, you still, as he's leaving, he drives right past. They make a point of showing that the creature is looking at his vehicle.
Yes.
So like you don't know because like the main two guys in the first and last segment are able to like be mobile within like their storylines too. So you don't like, it looks like it's ambiguous, the ending of Lucas, because he might have made the correct choice and been able to move on with his life, or because even though he did the right thing in this instance, he is still not taking responsibility for the accident because he didn't just stay and accept his purgatory.
Right.
So the simple fact that he did everything right up until he brushed it aside and decided to accept the fresh new car and fresh new clothes and leave. Like, you can
that could be the wrong choice.
You can take it in that he did everything right up until that point, and him leaving the purgatory. His purgatory was supposed to end with him stuck in the hospital, just like Mitch in the motel.
You're right. And then there's also the line I think we glossed over where it's like, do I have to worry about this? No, Lucas. You don't have to worry about this. Like, is this going to come back to me? Am I scot-free? Is this going to be traceable back to me? Like, all of a sudden, he's back to, like, worrying about himself, which, I mean, at this point, who else is he going to worry about? But it's just like, is that the wrong decision? Or does it matter because he passed the test? Does it matter what he says and does now? Or, like, he doesn't see, it is nighttime, but he doesn't seem to react to seeing a creature. He doesn't act like he sees a creature. Can he see the creature? Like, there's so much. There's so much that you can pull from this.
Yeah, this is the standout. This is the best part of, like, my by far favorite is the accident, because I think all of the parts like are really well put together and they all follow the same themes really well, but the accident just like is like a perfect execution of this type of like theme they were going for, of purgatory and coming to grip with your decisions, and also the ambiguity of it all, because like we've been talking about for 10 minutes, we don't know. You do not know how it goes for Lucas, but fuck, it's such a good.
My personal interpretation is that he beat it. I like that one because, that makes the story completely different from all of the others.
Yeah.
But it could be literally anything.
Yeah. My personal representation of my personal interpretation, I should say, of it is by him not accepting responsibility and staying in the hospital, which was his purgatory, and brushing it aside is that
he's just going to go hit her again on his way out of town.
I think he gets the closest to passing the test out of any of them. But in my opinion, because I think he was supposed to stay in the hospital and that's why he was locked in. I think his purgatory and his hell was supposed to be taking responsibility for it and accepting it and just staying there with her. And that was supposed to be his story, but because he takes the easy way out of "I'll be fine, this is gonna be fine," and leaves,
and then the whole "I didn't deserve this," and that, yeah.
But they're both valid interpretations, and that's what makes it awesome. Like we was talking about, like, it's what makes Dark Souls so awesome is everything is ambiguous. Every person's interpretation is accurate because it could be right and it could be wrong. There's no.
If you're listening to this and you play games and you haven't played Dark Souls, we highly recommend Dark Souls.
And play Bloodborne too, and you'll get a whole dousing of creature design that looks a lot like the dude in this movie. That's for damn sure.
Hey there, listeners. Me again. Just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to part 1 of our coverage of Southbound, and that our next film is my pick, and I picked a movie on Netflix called Circle. Now, if you're watching The Circle, then you're watching Tom Hanks and Emma Watson, and that is the wrong film. This is a film from 2015, and it's just simply titled Circle. And it's pretty good. I enjoyed it, and I've been trying to get Geoff to watch it for some time, so I made it my pick for next time. So from this point, you got 2 weeks to seek it out on Netflix or otherwise and find it. According to Just Watch, it is available on Netflix still at this time. And yeah, thank you so much for listening and sticking with us as we're trying to figure out exactly what the show is and what the show will be. Right now, it's still an ever-changing, fluid thing in these early episodes. But we'll find our legs soon and figure out the format. But until then, things are a little topsy-turvy. But yeah, we will see you next week for part 2 of our coverage of Southbound.
Oh, I saw people on Twitter talking about this movie today. I looked it up and saw Tom Holland, Mads Mikkelsen, and Daisy Ridley, and I was like, okay.
See, I hadn't noticed Mads Mikkelsen yet. When I went to IMDb, on the front page was a trailer for it, and it just said Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley, and I was like, huh? Dystopian future, huh?
3 great tastes that taste great together.
Right? Plus, ew. Think about that for a second.
Don't worry, don't think about
it. Why are you thinking about it, bro? Don't think about it.
I'm thinking about it, bro. It's making it weird.
Okay, I'm gonna turn on the fan before we start.
Okay.
So
please
hold on. I thought that was your favorite part.
That was the funniest shit that ever happened. the fucking, we had more openings to that fucking podcast than Lord of the Rings had endings, dude. It was horrible.
I like how that happened, and we just went with it. It's like, fuck it, we'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. I love that clip so much. All right, I'll be right back.
Okay.